dying strong out there in the streets every single day. I got you. Yeah.
I will defend my brothers. I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite. Bring it on. It's time to fight. As that alarm clock beeps and wakes you from your sleep, pull back the sheets. It's time to hit the streets. Dudes, fresh shave your face. Girls, put up your hair. Back breaking and aching from the equipment that you wear. Face to face with your locker, strapping on your vest. Pray to God it'll block a hollow point from your chest. Join up with the squad, that's the crew of the night. Here again, our evil man took another life. Got a price on your head, brother, better beware. Load up that Glock and prepare yourself for warfare. Spread trips to the concrete in this dead heat. Load up that Crown Vic and get back up on the beat. Ridicules what you get, not even a damn handshake. As the sun sets on that city landscape, nothing can stop you, snow, rain, or thunder. Gotta hold that blue line tight, you're the wolf hunter. I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to fight. I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to fight. No words can express the lack of respect. No arrest of a suspect's unchecked. They say you ain't shit and you always tell lies. It's so quick to pick up and call when victimized. Riots and protests, it's always us they blame. It's expected, not regretted when a hero cop is slain. Never freeze up in fear when everyone's stomachs in knots. Who else you know running towards the gunshots? You know you're not alone. Take a look around. Look past the hate that you feel surrounds your town. The civil unrest, it needs to be addressed. So obsessed with judgment in the form of protest. So quick to judge and point fingers and blame. On the rifles and knives, and yet we can't take aim. In the streets and the chairs, they can't be muted. We're on the marches when a hero cop is executed, huh? I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to fight. I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to fight. Every push-ups for justice, each sit-ups for peace. Yet prepared for that battle waging up in the streets. Push the memories aside, keep the hate out of sight. Always on prowl for evil that lurks within the night. They said God made Shepherd so that he could protect the flock. To overwatch and keep track of those that he's lost. When evil brings the fight, you know it's outnumbered. Sink your teeth in his back, you're the wolf hunter. I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to fight. I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to
guys, I don't know about you, but I still get fired up with that song.
Yeah, that song's good. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm a sheepdog. I protect the sheep. I'm a wolf hunter. Dude, that's who we were. You know what I mean? We're still protecting the sheep, and we're still wolf hunters, and we're still sheepdog, man, and proud of it.
Yeah.
That's
Every time
beautiful.
I hear it, another reference that I didn't hear before, like I heard on this one, was the talks about the Crown Vics.
Yeah, yes, that's just gonna say the Crown Vic.
I was like, oh yeah, the Crown Vics.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he's a San Diego deputy sheriff.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
is he?
Yeah, he's a San Diego deputy sheriff, and the name of the band, what is it? I'll come. It's a homicide name, and he's currently working as a deputy sheriff, and all of his other songs. I bought his music. All of his other songs talk about police officers, suicide, PTSD. Great. I'll type it in right now. I'll look it up. But guys, before we get started, let's give everybody a warm welcome. We got Reverend Renz. Buenos dias, hermanos, and may Christ richly bless you and yours. Thank you very much, Reverend, and thank you once again, man, for giving us that blessing. We got San Diego police detective, former detective, robbery detective, gang detective, legend, Chris Kilby. We missed you, brother. Thank God that you're back on. I don't know what happened, but we know that you're back on, which is good. And we got one of our originals, which is Chris Kilby also, but also Big VJ Juarez has been with us from the very beginning. And we got our sister all the way from Riverside, man. She never misses a show. Thank you, sister, very much. Ceci. And today we're going to be answering your question about last night. We'll be talking about it. We got Big Jim to Janice, Batman, man, talking about Pelican Bay's legend with us, watching us all the way, like I always say, from Thailand. Blessings to you, brother. And we got BP 760. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Standing by from Imperial Valley. Great song, isn't it?
Yeah,
Outstanding song, man. It fires us up. Hey, guys, I can't wait, man. I want to hear all about your trip, Doug, and about retirement, how you felt. But before we get there, let's talk about what we're drinking today, what we're smoking. We're going to start off with you, Doug. What are you drinking today?
Well, I've got another surprise for you, Dave. It is
Okay.
it's a Indian whiskey from India.
Wow. Didn't know they made whiskey. I thought it,
Oh yeah, it's a 12-year whiskey. It's made in a small town called Indri. I think that's how you pronounce it, but it's in the foothills of the Himalayas in the northeastern part of India, and
cool.
it's distilled in 3 different casks. One's an American bourbon cask. One is I forgot what it is. It's a French wine. I forget which one it is, and one is a sherry cask. It's very good.
Wow.
It's very nice, very smooth. It's got a little bit of a citrus ting to it at the end of the taste, but I really like it. It's not peaty, nothing like that. So for folks that don't like peaty, it's a nice whiskey, and you get some spices. It kind of goes with the region, right? You get some spices, and I get a flavor of like raisins, kind of like a raisins in there.
really? Wow.
But it's
okay.
really smooth, really good.
And so it doesn't have a bite at the end, like sometimes it burns your throat a little bit, nothing at all.
No, it's warm. It's not. It's got a weird kind of warm thing to it. It's not. It doesn't have a bite. Doesn't burn. It's just warm. It's really good. It's really nice.
Oh, cool.
Doug, do they sell it in America? And how much did a bottle like that cost you there in India?
Well, they do sell it here in the States, and here in the States, it's like $55, maybe $60, depending on where you go. It's not bad, not a bad price. And it's 750 milliliters, so it's a good, it's a regular standard bottle. Yeah. But that's what
Indra. Okay.
That's what it looks like. It's Indra.
Single malt.
Okay.
Yep, it's really good.
I'm gonna definitely be looking for it, man. Indra.
Yeah, me
Well,
too.
They don't sell it at Costco. They don't sell it at Costco. I guess I won't have it. Big Sean, surprise us, brother. What are you smoking today? You're the only one out of all 3 that are smoking today. What are you smoking, and what are you drinking, brother?
You know what? When we were in Florida last year, helping you out, we stopped by one of the cigar shops, and I picked up Buffalo Trace. I've never had one before, so I figured I'd give it a shot. So far, so good. It's nice and smooth. And I went back to the old standard because of you, Dave. Angel's Envy.
Angel's Envy. All right.
And yes, Benny, I got it at Costco.
Hey, Sean, are you drinking it over ice, or are you drinking it like a man, like Doug, or are you a wimp like me over ice, brother?
Oh no, I gotta have an ice, dude. It's kind of warm outside here, so I gotta chill.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Get it
Well, I'm over here at the lake house at my daughter. They have a lake house. They have a $1 million view over here in Haines City. I mean, the backyard is the lake. It is a beautiful lake. And my son-in-law left out of town for a week, out of country, and he asked me to come and babysit the dogs while the kids and my daughter are working or at school. And I have my 2 bonus grandchildren, Izzy and Thor. I babysit them all day. They have a nice little gym. I work out, and he always has really good scotches. So today I'm drinking, once again, from Costco, an old fashioned, and it's the one that you had 2 weeks ago, Sean.
Isn't it good?
Currently,
Huh?
Oh,
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised over that one. Yeah, that was
me
pretty
too.
decent.
Me too.
Yeah.
So my daughter, she goes, Dad, don't you on Wednesdays? Isn't it Ash Wednesday? I go, well, number 1, I can't smoke because I'm in his office. I go, number 2, I go, he goes, Dad, I already have you a drink. So she poured me this drink. She goes, it's for Ash Wednesday, because they watch it once in a while. It's funny. They had never met Benny Cruz. And at my mom's burial, we had the funeral, and Chalo went to that. But at her burial the next day, Benny shows up. And I didn't know my daughters were fans of the show. And one of them comes up. She goes, is that Benny Cruz? Dude, there was, at my mom's funeral, there was maybe about 1,500 people there. Yeah. At the funeral, at the wake, or at the burial, there were a couple of hundred, 200 or 300 people there. Out of everybody, they noticed Benny Cruz. I'll tell you, that Benny Cruz is a star. People see me, they could care less, but they see Benny Cruz, and he's a star. And both of them told me, they go, Dad, he's a little shorter than what we thought he was, and he looks thinner than he does on television. I go, well, listen, the camera gives you 10 for 15 additional pounds. With me, it's 30.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a blessing. Hey guys, go ahead, Big Sean.
I just got a quick shout out on our intro on one of the pictures of the border team. There's a member who's on my border team, Steve Shaw, and I want to congratulate him. He just became the chief of police of Desert Hot Springs. I'm proud of him.
Oh, really?
Good job, Steve. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. He's out of my academy.
Huh?
He's out of my academy.
Oh yeah. Yes. Did you believe it? You believe
the 116. He's out of the 116. Yeah. Steve Shaw, really? Yeah. Chief of police. Good for him.
Chief of police of Desert Hot Springs. Yeah. So I have to drop in and say hi.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where's Desert Hot Springs? I mean, for whatever reason, I'm drawing a blank.
It's about 40 miles away from here. I know that. I think it's northeast of us. Yeah.
Is this by Palm Springs?
Yeah,
I think it's north toward that way, right, Doug?
Northeast of Palm Springs.
Yeah,
it's in that whole desert community of Cathedral City.
Okay.
All that out there. Yeah, it's
all. Congratulations, man, to my academy mate.
Yeah. And we'll be dropping in and seeing Kilby on Friday. I'm going to try to make it down there.
You're going to go. You're going to go to that.
I'll go down there. Yeah.
That is great. Yeah. Tell everybody about what Chris Kilby does. I mean, the guy's a legend, San Diego PD, but he's also a friend. He's one of those guys that if you at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're like that too, Sean, and so are you, Doug, that if your car breaks down, they will drive and they will help you change the tire at 3 in the morning. And that's Chris Kilby. But tell everybody what he does and has been doing for the past year, 2 years or so there in Chula Vista, Sean.
I guess he started it off with and I just had the guy's name too. Maybe Doug can help me out here.
Billy Cahill.
Billy Cahill. He wasn't doing very well, and they started meeting at the Jamba Juice over there in East Lake on the second Friday of the month. And I just recently heard about it. Now that I'm back, and yeah, there quite a few people show up and they just sit around. And one thing about Chris, man, when he tells you about doing a buddy check, he truly believes in that. And you know what? And I praise him for that, because we all have our lives and we're all busy with other stuff. And because of that, now that I'm back, I'm reaching out to people I haven't talked to in years. And just to say, hey, how you doing? How things going? And
it's really nice. It's not just PD people. It's not just There's deputy sheriffs.
I think some border patrol guys, some Fed guys too showed up.
There's federal agents that show up. We got parole agents, probation, sheriff's deputies. We got cops and law enforcement guys that we've all worked with or around all these years, and they heard about this gathering. And there's other guys out there that are in a similar situation that Billy Cahill was, where they got some health issues, and they come down, and it's just a big support group. And not everybody goes down every time, but there's always a good group of people down there. Yeah. It's Chris is the embodiment of buddy check. He really is.
Yeah. Without a doubt. And Doug, you're going to be going down there for the next, I believe in June, you're going to be down there for about 6 months. So you're going to be attending those get-togethers, right?
Yep. I attend those when I'm in town. Yeah.
And you guys are going to be recruiting a lot of those legends that attend those to be on our show, right, guys?
I hope so. I'm trying to get Chris on the show.
Yeah.
No, I begged him, and he got pissed
Oh,
off.
dude, he won't. He won't. Yeah,
What part of no don't you understand? He's a
Yeah.
Pharisee. He's a very humble guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I stopped asking. But it would be an honor to have him.
Yeah.
But guys, with that said, Doug, it's all yours. Tell us about retirement. Tell us about this trip that you took, and tell us about your godly experiences. It's all yours, brother.
Yeah. Please bear with me. I usually don't talk about this kind of stuff, in open forums like this, but my family knows, obviously. But after retirement, I had a rough time because it was one of those deals where, and I think a lot of people go through the same thing, where you don't have that daily interaction. It's not just the job. It's the daily interaction with your teammates and with other law enforcement officials, the community. You have this sense of when you're working, you have this sense that you're needed, and you're going out there to do the right things and to help people out and to solve crimes but so I think we've discussed this in the past, Dave and Sean, that departments don't really prepare their folks for retirement. It's just, your last day, you turn in your gear, and that's it. I was involved in a lot of things. I was doing a lot of training. I was teaching at a community college, and some of the local agencies were asking me to do inspections on their gang detail, on their gang files, and make sure they were in compliance, all kinds of different things. And you have this sense of like you're needed. And after I retired, you lose that because you don't get the phone calls any longer. People aren't calling you to help them with projects or run ideas by you anymore because you're just not there. Doesn't matter that you give out phone numbers and email addresses and stuff. You're not at the job any longer. So they're not calling you at the desk on speed dial any longer. So it's kind of this sense of being lost, not having any direction. And it was difficult. It was really difficult. And so, I was a senior guy, but all of a sudden it was like I wasn't needed any longer. So that was tough to do. And so much so that Kim was still working. She was in homicide at the time. And so I was calling her like 3 or 4 times a day just to, see what was going on, how things were going. And I was driving her crazy because she had a job to do and I kept interrupting her. So, she encouraged me to get a part-time job. And that's when I got that position at the city attorney's office as an investigator on the civil side, working on cases related to police litigation. And that was interesting. I enjoyed that, but it still wasn't the same. You're not doing the same kind of job. But I was able to go down to the PD. I was able to interact with police officers again and do different things. But I still struggled. I struggled hard, and it was real difficult. It's like one of those deals where not only do the departments not, help you out before you retire by, explaining, things that you may be going through, but I can't even tell you. I mean, you guys all went through the same thing I did with your careers, and you, Sean, and SWAT and all that. But how much money they spend on you for training is tremendous. They spent a tremendous amount of money training me to be this gang investigator. And I was one for, 95% of my career. So it just all went away because once I was gone, they never utilized me again. It was like all this institutional knowledge the department didn't have a need for it any longer. And it was kind of disheartening. So, and anybody who knows me, Chris can attest to it. Anybody that's ever worked with me on any of my teams is I kept books on everything. I kept historical documents. I kept daily logs, my monthly logs, the weekly logs, all that stuff that was required of me throughout my career. I kept everything. Every intel report that came from any agency that had to do with any of the types of investigations or gangs I was dealing with, I had. So I had a lot of historical documentation of how gangs started, who were the ones that started the gangs, why they started, where they started, and where they went to, all the way up to the point of my retirement. I actually went to the PD and went to the gang unit and said, "Hey, I've got all these docs. I don't need them any longer. They're not going to do anybody any good if I keep them." And so I went back to the PD and says, "Hey, are you guys interested in all these old reports?" Nobody was. Nobody was interested in all that historical stuff that I had gathered for 32 years. Not a thing. Not a one. Case laws.
Unbelievable, Doug.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So I shopped around and I gotta give a shout out to Benny's Sheriff's Department. I got a hold of a detective in their intelligence unit and said, "Hey, look, I can't find anybody who'd be interested in this stuff." And when I say I had boxes, I had probably 20 boxes full of stuff, and it was all collated. It was all in. I had them all in binders. I mean, it was already organized. And I called him up and says, "Look, I can't store this stuff. It's not doing me any good. I got to get it out of my house. I'm not paying for a storage facility for it. Are you guys interested?" And that guy jumped on it. He goes, "Absolutely. We'll take it. And we'll go through it. And if we've got duplicates of stuff, then we'll deal with that. But it sounds like you've got a lot of information. We'd love to have it." So I said, "Great. When can I meet you down there?" They said, "No, we'll have somebody come up and get it from you." So they sent a couple guys in a van and they loaded up the van full of my boxes of paperwork and they took off. But that's what I mean. I mean, my own agencies weren't interested in this stuff. I mean, they paid for all this stuff. They paid for all that knowledge and they just let it go. So it was difficult because you don't feel like you're needed any longer. And, my knowledge now is nothing like it was then because I've been out of the game for so long, but institutional stuff is still there. Historical stuff is still there. And I don't know if they have any need for it, but it's like you didn't exist after you retired. So I struggled really hard. And about 2 years ago, my mom got real sick. She'd gotten cancer. It was during COVID that she was diagnosed. And that kind of threw me for a loop. She wasn't feeling well. And so they did some tests and they found that she had cancer. At that time, she had cancer in her stomach. And so the doctors had ordered biopsies and such. And this was at the height of COVID. So when she, was trying to make her appointments to get the biopsies and stuff done, it was denied because doing a biopsy was considered, it wasn't a necessary procedure. It was elective surgery. And so, they can't treat anything until they know exactly what they have. So during the whole COVID incidents, the hospital, at least the hospitals in the area where she was living, which was up in Riverside County, they wouldn't take her in. And, she was on, Social Security and Medicare and stuff. They wouldn't take her in because it was elective surgery. So she went without treatment for years and years and years. And then finally, when COVID broke and they changed their protocols and everything else, she went in and had it done and it had advanced into her brain. And by then it was untreatable. And they tried to give her some stuff to prolong her life. But turns out she was allergic to the medication, so that wasn't going to work. And at that time, I was struggling. I was still struggling. And I'm the kind of guy, I just keep it to myself. I would swallow it. I didn't share it with anybody. My friends didn't know. Kim knew. She senses that stuff in me. So, she pries it out of me, but she knew that I wasn't right. And we took a family trip to Ireland. Both my boys got to go. Her parents went, and some of her family went. And then she surprised me with, she goes, "Hey, after we go to Ireland, we're going to go to Spain and we're going to hike the Camino De Santiago, Compostela." and it's a pilgrimage for St. James, and it starts in Saint Jean Pied de Port, which is on the border. It's a French town, but it's on the border of Spain in the Pyrenees Mountains, and you start hiking, and it's about a 530-mile hike. And you hike on this pilgrimage that's been going on for centuries, and you end up at Santiago, the city of Santiago in Spain. And that's where St. Peter was. He's supposed to have been interned there. And there's a big basilica there. And it's a kind of a spiritual deal. And you go through all these small villages and towns, and you go through big cities, but you visit all the churches, and you stay in monasteries and such. And about halfway through, I got a message from my younger sister, who she's a nurse, and she was my mom was staying with her so she could take care of her. And then my mom was she was turning down. She was getting worse off. So we we were thinking that we were going to have to stop and fly home early and make sure we were home for mom. But my sister told me, my mom was too weak to talk on the phone, but my sister told me, she goes, no, mom doesn't want you to stop. She wants you to keep going. She knows it's important to you. So, and I ended up, we were staying at in a monastery for nuns, and they had there's a priest there, and they have a chapel. And we went to what they call a pilgrim's service. So it's kind of non-denominational, but went to that, and then spoke to the priest afterwards and told him what I was going through. And he gave me some good advice. And he says, listen to your mom, listen to your sister, and listen to your heart, and you'll do the right thing. So we ended up continuing on. We finished it, and it was the best thing I'd ever done at that point, spiritually, and getting me back on track with my faith and my relationship with God. And it just changed me. It truly changed me. Now, spring forward 2 more years, and I started going through this cycle again. And we had planned a trip with some of our friends. We were going to go to India and Nepal. And our friends ended up not being able to come with us because there were some medical issues with our friends, and it just wasn't the right time for them to go. So Kim and I decided we would go, and then we would extend our trip after that. And this is the trip that we're going to talk about tonight. And it culminated to 57 days that we traveled. So we traveled through India, Nepal, Turkey, met some friends in Germany, and traveled with them for a couple of weeks through Germany, the Czech Republic, and Austria. And then Kim and I, they went home after that time. And then Kim and I continued for a few more weeks down into Italy and then into the Lake Garda area. And then we spent a 24-hour layover in Iceland before coming home. And during this trip is like, you're always looking for things. You're always looking for things to, talk to you or reach out to you or something to give you some sense of peace. And I wasn't sure if I was going to find them or not, but I knew I was going to visit some old churches because Kim knows how I love old churches. I love architecture, and I always get a sense of solace when I go in these old churches that were built in the 11th and 12th centuries, even 16th and 17th centuries. I mean, they're beautiful, and you sit in the pews and they're just quiet, and they're beautiful, and you have time to think, and you have time to talk to God, and just figure things out, figure out life, and what you want to do, how you want to go forward, and how you're going to treat friends. And I'm not one to reach out a lot to people. I'm getting better as I get older. I have some good examples like Chris. Mike Gallivan's good at reaching out to me. Before Billy Cahill passed, he was really good at reaching out. So I'm trying to emulate that and reach out to folks. But when we got to India, I didn't realize. I started looking up the history for India, and India is kind of an interesting place as far as the culture goes, the country itself, the religious backgrounds of the place. And I don't know if anybody knows, but India was not known as India until 1947, after World War II. It was, it used to be called Hindustan. And, obviously because of the dominant religion is Hinduism, but it was comprised of many, many kingdoms. And, over the years, kingdoms come, kingdoms go, but it was Hindustan, and it didn't become India until after World War II, after the British decided that they were going to leave all their colonies and afford them their independence, and then they were drawing up lines as to what the countries are going to be. And so the British did a lot of things wrong at that time. They drew these arbitrary lines for borders, and that's why we have so many problems over there. They tried to do it by ethnicities and then by religious beliefs and drop these countries, and it just didn't work. They really didn't ask the people. So I think India it's about 72% Hindu, it's 14% Muslim, and it's almost 5% Christian, and then you have Sikhism and a few other groups in there also. So that's how they divide the country up. So Pakistan was divided from India at the same time, and because most of the Muslims lived up north, and the reason that they were in the north of Afghanistan, or not Afghanistan, but the north of India, is because that's where all the Muslim rulers, when they invaded, excuse me, the train's going by real quick. When the Muslim rulers invaded and took over parts of India, they first came in through the north. But so that's how it got divided up. Anyway, so when we're traveling around the country, I was truly amazed at the fact that it's truly a country of the haves and the have-nots. Either you're wealthy or you're not. You're either really poor or you're wealthy. The caste system, if anybody knows what the caste system is still in effect to this day. You're born into your caste. So whatever your parents are, that's what you're going to be. And that's going to determine, for the most part, your status in the communities, what kind of jobs you can get, all of that. And it's part of the culture. It's part of it's even part of the religions over there. But the first picture there, actually the first two pictures there, that's of the Taj Mahal. So the white building there is the Taj Mahal. And I don't know if people realize it, but the Taj Mahal, it's not a temple, it's not a palace, it's not a mosque. It is it's a tomb. It's a mausoleum that was built by a Mughal emperor, and that's an Islamic emperor, I think his name is Shah Jahan, and it was a tomb for his wife, and he was deeply in love with his wife. Now, she plays an important role in this because she was from her background. She was a Persian nobility. So at that time, they were same like most royal families do, right? You marry other royal families to make your alliances and to make your own kingdom stronger. So, but he was deeply in love with her, and when she passed, when she got sick, she basically told him, she goes, "Well, if you're going to remember me, then you build me a monument." And that's what he built her, was that monument. Now, the picture to the right, that is actually the mosque. So if you're looking straight at Taj Mahal, and as the estate goes, or the grounds go, to the right are two buildings that look exactly the same. Everything in Islamic architecture is very symmetrical. All is very symmetrical, so everything's the same. So the building on the right there is actually a mosque, where the family, when he would go there to be in solace and be by to himself, the emperor, when he would go there, he would go to that mosque for his prayers. He would go to the mosque, and then a building shaped just like that, which would be off to the left of the Taj Mahal, was the residence he would stay in. So everything's very symmetrical. But I had no idea that the Taj Mahal was nothing more than a mausoleum to one person, to the emperor's wife. It's made out of marble, white marble. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the spires, if you look at the spires really hard at the mausoleum there, they actually lean out. They lean away from the main building. And the reason he did that, or the architects did that, they designed it that way, so if there was ever an earthquake or any calamity, they would not fall into the mausoleum. They would fall away from the mausoleum. So it wouldn't damage the main building itself. So that intrigues me, that, way back then they figured all that stuff out. So these pictures are in a place called Jodhpur, India. No, I'm sorry. This is Udaipur, India, and this is the city palace. So it was built. The building started in 1559 is when they started building this. It was built by let me think of his name. I don't remember his name, but it was the capital city for the Rajput kingdom. But the complex took over 4 centuries to build. It's massive. It took 23 generations of rulers to build this place. And the fortress contained a self-sufficient ecosystem. So if they were ever under attack, the entire capital city, all its citizens and everything, could retreat back into this palace. And it's actually a giant fortress with many palaces. But they could retreat back in there, and they could, all their animals could be in there. They could grow all their food in there. Everything they needed could be in there, and they would be able to survive in there. But it's a fortress complex is the best way to say it, and it contains 11 palaces. There's 11 different palaces in there. So, each one of these rulers decided he wanted to make his own palace, so they kept building palaces inside this place. But the architecture is actually based on medieval European architecture and Chinese architecture. And if you look real hard, you can see that architecture, and you can see the Chinese influences and the European influences. But inside this complex, there is no place of worship. There is not a single Hindu temple in there. And this was built by a very devout Hindu dynasty. So, but there's no places of worship in there, because this was a palace, this was a residence. You would go outside there for religious purposes. However, inside are references to the various deities of Hinduism. But what struck me in this is, if you look at this tile, so this is the influence of the European influence. So they brought in tiles, the blue tile, the Dutch tiles, and this is a Dutch tile. And there's a this is part of a mosaic of basically field workers on these tiles, except this one. When I saw this, I had to take a second glance at it, because, like I said, I was looking for, I didn't know if I was looking for signs. I didn't know what I was doing there. But when I saw this, I knew clearly that God was talking to me. And I know you all see it, but what I immediately saw was the Madonna with the Christ child on the back of a donkey being led across the desert by Joseph. Why is that in the city palace of Udaipur, India, from the 1500s and 1600s, when Christianity probably didn't even represent 3% of the population?
And Doug, the Christian population, even today, I mean, this is a Hindu temple. Hindu temples, they believe in everything but Christ. They believe in reincarnation and so forth. But yet, I mean, this is a 15th century. You see this picture, them honoring Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Yeah. So and the thing is that, whoever the workers were, and that's the big panel there. So if you look at the panel, you can see it's mostly about, workers and stuff. And then all of a sudden it just sticks out.
How did that strike you, Doug?
It just
here you are in a Hindu temple, and all of a sudden you see something that represents Christianity.
I was just awestruck. I mean, I was like, is that what I think it is? I was second guessing what I was looking at. And then I realized, no, that's exactly what I'm looking at. So I grabbed Kim real quick and I brought her over and says, hey, take a look at this. What do you see? And she goes, oh, and she saw the same thing. And then when we were there, we had a guide that was taking us around. That was explaining to us, all the intricacies of this complex. And I brought the guide over. I says, what do you see there? And she's like, oh, I just, I see someone riding a donkey. And I said, no, this is what I see. And this was a very well-educated woman, our guide, she was educated in the United States in Boston. She went to school in Boston. And when she looked at it, she looked at me and she got a big smile on her face. She goes, I don't know how many times I've been in this place and I've never seen that. I have never noticed it.
Wow.
So to me, it was, they were telling me, or, God was telling me, is I'm here, I'm watching after you. And I mean, it was the best feeling I could have. It was just amazing that I would see it there. And once I did that, I think I had more of an appreciation for what my trip was. I was seeing my trip through different eyes, I think, at that point. I was really enjoying myself. India is a difficult place to travel through. For me, at least for me, it was, because just the abject poverty, feels so bad for these people and their situation. And it's just one of these things. But, I have to go back to the individual that placed that tile. Did that individual know what tile they were placing? Did they know the significance of that? Or was it just a tile that was in a box that he found and he just put it up there? You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
I'd like to think that it was an individual who was a follower of Christ that had an opportunity or saw an opportunity, and he put that, or she put that tile in place, and it's been there ever since. It hasn't been desecrated. It hasn't been removed. It's there. And that's another testament, right? It's that it's there. Okay. So after we left India, we went to Nepal, and we went to Nepal first of all to visit Nepal, and then I was trying to find a colleague of mine from Afghanistan who was a Gurkha, and his family's from Kathmandu. But Nepal is very much like India. It's not as it's cleaner. I think they have more environmental issues there because they're in the mountain ranges of Everest. So, and the Himalayas, I mean. So I think they're a little more conscious on that. There wasn't as much trash and such around, but it was very overt. They had a lot more temples there, and again, Nepal is a Hindu state. Many temples, and I didn't know much about Hinduism, so I would go back to the room later on and I would look stuff up and I'd read on it. But Hinduism, it's believed to be a fusion of various Indian cultures and traditions, tracing all the way back to the Iron Age. So we're talking ancient, before Christ stuff. I mean, like 1,000 years before Christ was born. So it's very, very old. And it consists of 33 major deities. So it's like 33 major and hundreds of minor deities. So there's gods for everything in Hinduism. And if you're a Hindu, you have many choices. I mean, you could be polytheistic believer, which would believe in more than one deity. You could be a pantheistic, which means that you believe that everything constitutes a unity, and the unity is the divinity. And monotheistic, which is, believe in one God or one dominant deity. And then there's one called monistic, which is the existence of a single thing, the universe. And it's just that, which can be artificially or arbitrarily divided into many things. And we would be one of those many things within this one deal. So it's very odd. And they don't have a scripture. Hinduism doesn't have a scripture, so to speak, like Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. I mean, we have the Bible, they have there's the Torah, and then there's the Quran. They don't have that. They have poems, they have stories from many different people over the ages that have described what they believe, the different deities to mean, or what their legends were. A lot of it was oral, and now many of those things are written down now, but they don't have a centralized scripture where you would go to learn from. It's different. It's hard to explain. It's hard for me to understand. But this picture is in a place in the Kathmandu Valley. So Kathmandu is a city, and plus it's a valley. It's a huge valley. And it's called Durbar Square. And it's an area where the kings were once crowned and legitimized. And it's a big area. And it actually means palace. So there's a palace, but amongst the palace are many temples. And in Durbar Square, there are 50 different temples for 50 different deities. So the first thing that struck me was, if you look at this picture, it's very sexual in orientation. And this is a carving at one of the, I don't know which temple it is, or which deity the temple represents. I didn't write it down. There's just so many of them. I would have spent my days just writing notes about what came from where, but obviously they're fornicating. And this is at the entrance. You can see the steps on the right. This is at the entrance of the temple. And there's all different kinds of these types of carvings all over these temples. It's quite amazing about what's going on. But it's one of those where you wouldn't see that kind of stuff in the other three major religions of Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. You would not. That's not something you would see in a place of worship.
Hey, Doug, let me just clarify that you sent me, I think you took over 1,000 pictures, and you sent me, I'd say probably 60 to 70 pictures. Yeah. And I put additional pictures like this that you took there, but I'm only allotted a certain amount of space on StreamYard, but I had like 3 or 4 other slides of other pictures like this where it was very sexual. I mean, this guy's doing her doggy style. The other pictures, I mean, you could see
multiple partners.
Multiple partners. Yeah. So was that Nepal very sexual compared to India and other places, and I know we're going to continue on with this journey. Was it very sexual at the time?
These, for whatever reason, the temples in Nepal had these. I didn't see them at the temples. I didn't see this in the temples in India. Maybe it was just I didn't go to the right temples, but it was very prominent in Nepal, at the Hindu temples there, very prominent. So I was kind of shocked when I saw them. It was very interesting. So after leaving there, we went to Turkey. Kim and I, we flew down to Turkey and we spent some time in Istanbul. And just a little background on Turkey. And Istanbul in particular, Istanbul used to be called Constantinople. And it was part of the Byzantine Empire, which went back to the 4th century. And the Byzantine Empire was founded by Emperor Constantine I, and he was the first Christian emperor of Rome. So the Byzantine Empire was part of the Roman Empire. It was the eastern part of the Roman Empire. The western part of the Roman Empire that we're all mostly familiar with out of Italy, it basically fell apart in the 5th century in 476. It just kind of dissolved. But the eastern part of the Roman Empire, Byzantine, it survived for another 1,000 years. So it was a Christian-based empire that lasted for 1,000 years after the fall of the Roman Empire. But the Byzantine Empire fell to the Ottoman Empire, which was a Muslim empire, in 1453. It caused some clashes, obviously, some cultural clashes, because the citizens of Istanbul didn't speak Latin. They spoke Greek, and they identified as Christians, obviously. And now you've got a new Muslim rulers coming in. Well, the first picture, if you go back, Dave, if you can, that mosque right there is the Hagia Sophia, which is probably one of the best, most known mosques in the world. It's absolutely gorgeous. And it was built the original one was built in 360, the year 360, by Constantine's son, after he became the emperor of Byzantine. The original structure burned down in 404, and then it was rebuilt in 532. And then that ultimately was burned down again because they kept building it with a wood roof. So now it's got a stone roof, marble roof. And the third rendition was completed in 537. And it was a Orthodox basilica. It was a church. It was the main church of the Holy Roman Empire on the east. That was where everybody went for. It didn't have the minarets back then, obviously, but those were added later by the Muslim rulers. But it was originally a church, and it remained so for all the way up until 1453. Well, after the Ottomans took over, I believe it was Sultan Mehmed II was the sultan that conquered Constantinople, and it was renamed Istanbul. But he had given orders for the conversion of Sophia, the Hagia Sophia, to be a mosque, and he wanted it done quickly. So on the next slide, you'll see some of the mosaics. And this was the second time that I had this deep feeling of God letting me know that he was with me. Was here you've got one of the most best known mosques in the world. And inside you have these giant mosaics of Christian life. You've got, I believe on the left, you've got Christ in the center, and then you've got Constantine on his left, the Emperor Constantine, and the Constantine's wife's on his right. The photo in the center is, I believe it is of the nave that is where the original altar was for the church. And then on the right, if you look to your up, you kind of see it on the left-hand side, the mosaic. It looks like a flower or a plant or something. But
Actually, to
underneath,
me, Doug, it looks like an angel.
well, that's what the covering was an angel. I got to see. I don't know if I can make it bigger. Yeah, it's an angel. The original was an angel, but they covered it so that there's no face of the angel. There's nothing else. But what happened was,
Doug, this is in the mosque.
this is inside the mosque.
Dude,
So
I mean, you got a picture of an apostle. You have an angel. I mean, you have Christianity in the mosque.
Yeah. So what happened is that when Mamet went in there, and these were all mosaics. These are beautiful. So he wanted to convert it to a mosque so fast that all they did was they plastered over. They didn't remove them. They plastered over them, or they painted over them, or they put panels over them, and on those items when they covered it. They covered it with, traditional Islamic calligraphy and patterns and medallions and such that you would normally see in a mosque. So they were all preserved. So it was all preserved. So when I'm in there, I mean, I've been in many mosques, and I see that. That Cocaine Cowboys has put in there that Jesus is mentioned in the Quran many times. He is. He's believed to have been a prophet. But if you look at Islamic art in particular, and in mosques, you will never see depictions of people. You usually don't see depictions of animals. It's all geometric patterns. You'll see artwork that's maybe plants and geometric patterns, but you never see, you won't see depictions of people or animals, and that's part of their faith. So all these things were preserved, and then so after World War I, the Ottoman Empire was dissolved, and then in 1935, I believe it was 1930. Well, no, it was 1923. Turkey became a republic, and the Hagia Sophia was deemed to be a museum from 1935 to 2020, and it was just a museum. It was not. It was no longer a place of worship. It was not an official mosque. But in July of 2020, the Turkish Council of State and President Erdogan reclassified it as a mosque. So today, when Kim and I went in there, went on our tour, it is a practicing place of religion. It is a mosque again, and they have services there. And even with that, they have left. And I don't know. I'm not Muslim, but I don't know how the parishioners feel about all these Christian things still there. But I appreciate the fact that they are. I think the world appreciates the fact they are, because that's part of the history of the building and the history of man and everything else. But anyways, I must have taken, 300 photos just inside there, just so that I could always remember these things that were inside this mosque. So for me, and I had visited the mosque in 2006 when I was coming home from Afghanistan. My buddy and I, we left Afghanistan, and we went to Istanbul, and we had a 4-day layover there before we came back home to the States. And we actually went into the mosque. And I don't remember seeing all these things. So I was looking.
It's funny, Doug, how you're in a different frame of mind now.
Yeah.
I mean, this was, I call it a sabbatical, but a journey that God was involved. Back
Yeah, I was
then,
like,
God was there protecting you, but it wasn't your focus, and today you go back and you see things that you didn't see back then.
and the interesting thing is they started uncovering these things in the early 1900s. So it wasn't new. It wasn't like they had just uncovered all these beautiful pieces of art and all these, all these references to Christianity. They were there. I just don't remember seeing them. But when we went back, I couldn't help but see them. They were everywhere, and they were everywhere. There were the four apostles were there, or it's what is it? Matthew, Luke, John, and Paul, right? Matthew, Luke, John, Paul.
Yeah.
We're on the top of the rotunda there, above the angels, and this is the Madonna. And
that's in the mosque. The Madonna's in the mosque.
In the mosque. Every last one of these is inside the place of worship. So on the far right, you see that's the depiction of Christ.
Wow.
And then
I wonder what the Muslims say when they see this. How old are these paintings, Doug?
Oh, these are all mosaics, so they're all stones and tiles, and these are from the 6th and 7th century, so they've been there for 1800 years.
I wonder if the Muslims see it as a unity between. But you look at some of these radical Muslims who hate America, who hate Christianity, who hate anything related to Jesus Christ. I wonder how these radical Muslims see when they go to these places that are the 6th, 5th century, and they see that their predecessors, the Muslim faith, basically honored Christianity by putting these mosaics in one of their most important temples.
Yeah,
and given the fact that the times that we live in now, and with what's going on all over there in the Middle East, and that they're still up.
Yeah,
they haven't been desecrated. They're still part of the mosque.
Yeah, and there's security there, making sure that people aren't defacing anything, women got to have, you got to dress modestly to go in there. I mean, it's a place of worship, so women have to dress modestly. They have to cover their hair. You're allowed to take photos, but you can't use flash like in most places. It kind of brought a sense of warmth and a sense of it's hard to explain. I mean, I felt very appreciative that these things that this was still here. And Doug, who knows?
Doug, you were feeling this. I know your wife, Kim, very well.
Yeah.
How does she feel? Did she share that same feeling with you?
Yes, she was raised in the church. She's very, very in tune. And I struggled. My mom was a Sunday school teacher. I mean, I was pretty much raised in the church myself, but as I became an adult, I think, David, you shared it. There was a time where I kind of fell out of it. Not that I didn't stop believing, or I did, but my relationship was changing. And it wasn't, I'm going to be honest with you, it probably wasn't until after my retirement where I really struggled. And then, I started finding it again.
I agree with you there, Doug. I agree with you 100% right there.
Yeah. And I think it's these types of things that I'm seeing on these trips, through, the hike through Spain and the Camino De Santiago, and then, seeing, that tile in the palace in India, and then seeing these in probably the most significant mosque in the world. it's probably got to be one of the most photographed mosques in the world. To see those types of tiles really kind of hit me. It was like, I was grateful that the people of Istanbul and the government of Istanbul and the religious leaders of the faithful there in Istanbul have the foresight to think that it's important to keep those in place. Does that make sense? I mean, I think it's important.
Yes.
So these three photos. So along with that, these three photos are of Saint Anthony's Catholic Church. It's the largest Catholic parish in Istanbul. So there's still
is still in Turkey. This is still in Turkey.
Yeah.
Still in Turkey. So this is the largest and the oldest church, Catholic church in Istanbul. And the interesting thing about that church is that there's been some infighting, not amongst the Catholics there, but there's been some lawsuits filed saying that the site that the church is built on, there's some dispute as to the ownership of that land. But the church has been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. That particular building has been rebuilt a few times, like what happens often. But they've been battling these lawsuits regarding, and the idea is that, some of the more hardliners over there want the church to be removed, but it's still standing there. And I forget which pope it was, but there's a pope. He wasn't a pope at the time. He was the Vatican's ambassador to Turkey, but he used to give services there for 10 years at that church. So there's a statue of him out in front of the church. He later became a pope. I wish I could remember his name, but it's pretty cool. Okay, so this is kind of a funny photo. If you look real hard at the one sign that's pointing, as you're looking at it, point to the right, there's a little square on the bottom left of that sign. And if you can look really close, it's got a blue background and it's got a gold like flash. It almost looks like it could be meteor going through the sky, but it's actually a shell. It's a seashell, and that is the emblem of the pilgrimage of St. James. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but the St. James pilgrimage throughout, and that's basically where we went to through Spain, right? Santiago de Compostela. Santiago is St. James in Spanish. So it's all related. So this is actually in Germany, and Kim found this. She goes, "Hey, there's a pilgrimage church in Germany." So here's another thing telling me, holy cow, there's how many pilgrimage routes are there? Well, they go throughout Europe. But this is actually called the Pilgrimage Church of Wies, and it's in Steingarten, Germany, and it was built in 1740 and completed, I believe, in 1754 or something like that. But it's part of the pilgrimage. And the interesting thing about the use of the seashell is that the traditional thought is that St. James was laid to rest. He was killed in Jerusalem, and then his followers during part of the Crusades, they were afraid that he was going to be removed from his grave and his remains would be desecrated. So his followers removed him, and they were moving him to Spain. So the northern part of Spain, where Santiago, Spain is, was still under. It was on the cusp of Muslim rule and Christian rule. So at that time, the Moors, the Muslims had, basically, they had come across from North Africa into Spain, Portugal, parts of France. And that was part of the Crusades. It was part of the Reconquista, is what they called it, in Spain. So they moved, they put him on it, they put his body on a ship, and they were moving him up to Spain. Well, the ship sunk at sea. And so they lost St. James, except for the legend is, or the belief is that his body washed ashore, and his body was completely covered with those seashells, and the seashells had protected his body, and there was no damage to his body. So they were able to get him to Santiago, where they interned him. And that's the reason the shell's used. And if for those that are Catholic out there, oftentimes the shell is used in baptismals. Mm-hmm. It's used by pilgrims for a dish for food and for a bowl for water. So the shell has a lot of meaning on the pilgrimage. So they mark the trails with that sign of that shell. So when we saw that, it just brought back all those memories of the pilgrimage. So this is actually the pilgrimage church in Germany. And what would happen at these churches they would sponsor. So as you're going on your pilgrimage, you would stop off the churches, and they would put you up for the night. They would feed you, and you would attend mass, and then you would go on. You would continue with your pilgrimage. Now, this church is in Lake Garda, and it is the Santuario Madonna della Corona, and it's in the Lake Garda district of Italy, and it's built into the side of a mountain. And it was basically a sanctuary, for travelers, not so much for the pilgrims, but more for travelers. But the original was built in the 11th and 12th centuries. And if you see on these photos, you can see that that's the rock on the side of the mountain that they dug out. Those are the walls of the church on the interior, and it's the stone of the mountain. But it was in 1437, it was passed on to the Order of the Knights of Malta. Now, I don't know if for those that don't know what the history of the Knights of Malta are. So Malta is an island. It's off the coast of Italy and such. So it kind of sits at the entrance to the Mediterranean, North Africa and Europe. And the Knights of Malta were originally called the Knights Hospitallers, which were kind of the equivalent to the Knights Templars during the Crusades. And Knights Hospitallers were actually, they were fighting monks, they were warrior monks, but they also provided medical care. They were doctors. So they would provide medical care to pilgrims, to, those injured in battles, and they provided medical care to Christian and Muslim alike. So they're very highly thought of. And then eventually they changed to the Order of St. John, is what they're called now. So the Order of St. John is still in existence to this day. They have a compound. I believe it's just outside of the Vatican City. They have a place on they have a place at the United Nations, where they don't have any votes, but they're there to give guidance. They're on different committees and stuff, so it's very much like the Vatican City type of stuff, but it's the Order of St. John. And when you learn all these things and you realize this stuff, I was not that I was taken back, but I just felt at peace. And sitting in these churches, I mean, you go into these churches and you sit in the pews, And when I'm telling you, all these churches, I mean, these are just some samples. I mean, every town and city I went to, I visited a church, at least one. In some cities, I went to many cathedrals and different churches, and they're open. The doors aren't locked. There may not even be anybody from the parish inside the church, but you can go inside and you can pray and you can, talk to God and you can do what you need to do, and you just leave. And they're sacred places. People don't steal from them. They're open all the time.
Hey, Doug, can you imagine if those pews could talk?
Oh,
How many mothers, how many men, how many women, how many children cried unto our Lord Jesus Christ in those pews? I mean, if those pews, I mean, you're talking about centuries old. If those pews, how many tears do they hold?
Oh.
How many sorrows do they hold? How many victories do they hold? Where you were at. I mean, what a blessing to be a part of that.
How
experience that, Evan.
How many prayers for guidance were given at the same place I was asking for the same?
Yeah.
And I got to say, I've been very fortunate that I could travel to these places and see these things and the history and all that. And it is a passion of mine. I mean, that's when Kim and I travel. That is my focus. Is always like what church, what basilica, what cathedral is in the area that I can go visit, that I can go learn about. Can I go sit and have some peace and have my private conversations with God? So it in essence, it's brought some clarity to my retirement. I know, and I got to say, when you invited me on the show, it was like a godsend. Like he was reaching out, Dave, because I hadn't talked to you. And when was the last time I talked to you before you invited me on the show?
Well, we worked for the PD. I don't think we ever talked.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
we were just we'd see each other from a distance, and this show has brought us together. Yeah.
So it's amazing, how things are brought out. But it was an absolute amazing trip. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Doug. I was excited about this episode tonight because I know that this was a life transformation to you. And my experience with the Lord was in a gym, literally in a gym 3 years ago in a steam room. And I believe that your experience with the Lord is at these churches, is at these pews. You know what I mean? Just sitting there, touching them and feeling the presence of God. And Sean, I mean, I've heard your testimony many of times that you've gone to the church and lit candles, and right there and then God has come to you. And I think all three of us, and Bobby included, we are blessed that we don't preach a religion, we preach an experience. You know what I mean? And I think that this experience, this journey that you took us on today, Doug, thank you very much. I thank you I've been excited about this show. I've been looking forward to this show because I know that only you know the experience that you had and you shared it with us. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Sean.
Doug, and I think I told you, my mom and my grandmother, my uncle, they were all born in India. And when I was about 5 years old, we actually, me and my sister, and my mom lived in India with my grandparents for 2 years. I went to a Catholic school and all that. And one thing I remember, you're talking about the caste system. They had servants at the house, and to this day, I still remember their names: Krishna Vani, and I just lost the other one. But anyways, and I remember driving down the road, and the car stopped, and I asked the driver, basically, I said, "How come we're stopped?" Because there was a cow in the road, and you can't mess with the cows. If the cow sits there for 5 hours, you sit there for 5 hours. You find a way to go around. You don't mess with the cows.
You can't molest the cows.
Oh no. And talking about religion and all that. On my mom's side, they're all Protestant. On my dad's side, we're Catholic. And the Protestants, the High Church of England. You go to Westminster Abbey, all the kings and queens were all Catholic until one king, had a falling out with the Pope, and he created the High Church of England. You go to a Protestant, and this is what gets me about Northern Ireland or Ireland in general. You go to a Catholic service and you go to a Protestant service, and they're pretty much the same thing.
Close.
It's just like,
the Church of England, the Anglican Church is very similar to the Catholic Church.
Exactly. Except us Catholics, we kneel and stand up a lot,
Yeah.
I think my daughter's yelling at me. She has my caldo ready. It's 9 o'clock over here. But let me tell you, Reverend Rents, you said it all. Can you imagine when Christ comes to rule and reign on earth for 1,000 years, being in his presence? I mean, how beautiful. And Chris Kilby ends it with, not ashamed or embarrassed to tell you fools, I love you. Keep doing those buddy checks. Be safe, okay? And Cocaine Cowboys, me too. Guys, time has gone. Once again, thank you very much, Doug. I mean,
that was great. That was great.
Literally, you took us on a journey around the world. And what a blessing. But with that said, you know what? Doug, tell us who's going to be on the show next week, and tell us the surprise that we're having next week.
Next week, we're going to do a show on a detective that he's one of the best detectives that the PD's ever produced. His name is Mike Gutierrez. He was in came out of Central Division, went to GST, became a detective, went to the gang unit, and he ended up over at the Violent Crimes Task Force, an FBI task force. And he has some legendary cases where he was an undercover operative. And it's just, I had no idea some of the cases that he was involved in, but he was a boxer. He trained our boxers during Battle of the Badges. He couldn't compete because I think he was semi-pro, or he had been a semi-pro.
Well, I'll tell you, Doug, since you're talking about him being a boxer, he knocked pneumonia into me. He beat the crap out of me, and I'll talk about it next week. I mean, this guy literally made a believer out of me. But we'll talk about it. But
he would have dominated.
He
would have dominated Battle of the Badges. There's no doubt about it.
Without a doubt.
He's a great. He's a fantastic man. And so we're gonna have his story next week.
And you know what, Doug? I think one of the reasons why we all know that he's been ill lately, that's why he's not going to be on the show. Yeah. But we want to honor him like we've honored ourselves. We've honored every member of this team, telling our life stories so our children, our grandchildren, our legendary stories 10, 20, 30 years from now can listen to them. And we're going to honor Mike Gutierrez. But the guys that we see over here, we see Sal Calabella. We see Richie Buchanan. We see Tawa Romero. We see Bat Marquez. We see Raul Leon. We see Chino Madriaga. These are all legendary, in the wrong form, gangsters from San Diego, Mexican mafia members. And Mike worked undercover on all these guys and sent all these guys to prison. And I mean, these are just some. You were telling me some undercover stuff they did with the Somalians. Doug, I'm telling you, you're going to be telling his story. We're going to be talking about the legendary stories of Mike Gutierrez. I cannot wait. It is going to be, I mean, literally, it is going to be an outstanding episode. And also, that's next Wednesday. So please watch. Also, next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we have author Johnny Ray, which was a lieutenant with the California Department of Corrections. He wrote a book called Yard Down. He's going to be on our show. These are 2 pictures of him. He's going to be talking about his experience working with the Mexican Mafia, Nuestra Familia, Aryan Brotherhood, Black Guerrilla Family in state prisons. and it's going to be. He wrote a book called Yard Down. If you get a chance to purchase it before the episode, that'd be great. But he's going to be on live, guys. I am excited because it is going to be an outstanding episode, guys. You know what? Tonight we were going to. Let me go ahead and remove this. Go with Ask Sean. Sean, let's save those questions till next week. The reason why my grandchildren, they have to go to sleep. They have to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to sleep. My daughter made me a caldo. She's peeking in here. I don't know if you guys got a chance to hear. She goes, Dad, we're waiting for you to eat dinner. It's 9:20 over here. So let's reserve that for next week if it's okay with you.
Oh, yeah.
Doug, like I said, brother, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for taking this beautiful lesson, this beautiful journey. What a blessing. What a blessing. And,
thank you.
And guys, what I said, let's go ahead and just give our last advice to our listeners. And next week we'll do Ask Sean, and we're going to have these outstanding episodes. Sean, let's start with you, brother.
Just, you know what, Doug, thank you. I mean, you brought back a lot of stuff that, we all, me, you, and Dave have felt after we left. And now that we've found ourselves and found God and Jesus Christ. And, I'm glad you went through that. Hopefully you're all better for it. And
much so.
And let me answer Hector H's question. Yeah, it's still here. You just don't have the eyesight for it. Thank you.
The mustache.
The stash. It's getting a little wider. I'm getting older, but still.
Yeah.
It's blending in more.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Doug, last words. Just keep looking for those signs because they're out there.
Yeah.
You just gotta be willing to see them. And once I started seeing them, I said, they're everywhere. They are everywhere. And it just fills my heart when I see them and when I recognize them. And I'm in a good place. I'm in a good place.
Good, boy. Good. Glad for you.
Amen. Doug, once again, thank you very much for taking us on that journey. I can't wait for you to take us. You're in charge of the whole month of May, so I know you got some great people coming on. Bobby's in charge for the month of June. He's going to take us to DEA. It's going to be DEA month, and then Sean, you're going to take us in July to Navy SEALs and CIA, and then I'm taking you in August to cartels. So, guys, we got some great episodes coming up. With that said, you know what? Live a purpose-driven life, like I always say. Not only live a purpose-driven life, but make every day count and do your body calls.
Body checks. Yeah.
With that said, thank you. God bless you. We'll see you next Wednesday. Mike Gutierrez, we look forward to honoring you, and we look forward to talking about the California Department of Corrections. God bless you.
Used to spend my nights out in the ballroom. Liquor was the only love I'd known. But you rescued me from reaching for the bottom and brought me back. Far gone. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey.